Hey guys, welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Tech Pit podcast. In today's episode, we will not be talking about a real product. Instead, we're going to be speculating on newer Apple M1 or M1X Macs. Let's get started. So first of all, why are we making this video? Well, it's pretty obvious, really. Apple M1 Macs are very, very important right now, and they're really on the news. I've also predicted that Apple stocks are going to rise up a lot when M1 becomes mainstream. So just expect Apple stocks to skyrocket. Anyway, M1 Macs are a lot more power efficient and powerful than other CISC-based Macs. So like M1 is ARM or RISC-based. Others are x86 or CISC-based. It's spelled CISC, not six. Yeah, CISC. Remember that. Anyway, they released three new products. Okay, guys, I know this. All right, I made 3 videos about 3 products. I just cannot speak today. I'm so sorry. But yeah, they released 3 new products. About 2 weeks ago, I think. It was the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. These are all really baseline models, and they're the cheapest Macs that Apple sell. The Mac Mini coming at $700 USD or $1,000 here. Nope, $900 here in Canada, which is a really good deal, by the way. But these uses the M1, they blow every other Mac out of the water, and they're like so much cheaper than like a tenth of the price. So the question here is, if these are the base model, then what will be the other Macs? How quick or how powerful will the other Macs be? And this is what this video will be talking about, or episode, sorry. Once Apple actually does release these newer M1X or maybe M2 chipped Macs, comparing them to older generations, they will definitely be a lot more powerful. So basically, if you compare the M1 Mac Mini to the Intel Mac Mini, you can see that there is a 10 times faster neural engine, a 6 times faster GPU, and like a 4 times faster CPU, and that's all ran on this single chip. So you see these improvements coming from an x86 to a ARM processor. Of course, you're not going to see these results again with just a simple upgrade. But remember, these are baseline chips that uses basically no power, and they are thermally throttled. They're put in these very baseline devices that Apple sells for really cheap. So for Apple's actual Pro devices, unlike the MacBook Pro, which is just called that with 4 Thunderbolt ports, they're going to be a lot more powerful. Yeah, they're going to use more power, but yeah, more power means more powerful. Like, shouldn't you guys know this? It is interesting though. In my opinion, I think the next coming Macs are going to be iMacs. And iMacs and also the more upgraded versions of the other Macs. Like I think there's gonna be new iMacs. I think there's gonna be the 4 Thunderbolt ported Mac Mini and the 4 Thunderbolt ported MacBook Pro. How am I forgetting every single word? Anyway, these have really powerful speeds, and that's the main selling point. With the baseline model chips, the M1 being already that quick, they have to have faster chips that they can put in other Macs. Like their iMac Pro costing $5,000. Why should someone get an iMac Pro over the $700 Mac Mini if the performance are nearly identical? If they just put the same chip in every single Mac, no one's going to buy the more expensive ones. So they wouldn't just put they wouldn't put their best chips inside of their cheapest products. Therefore, this is leading me to believe that they have a lot more chips out their sleeves, and they're going to be blowing everything else out of the water. Their cheapest Macs are this fast. Imagine what they can do with more expensive Macs and more power-hungry Macs. So, in my opinion, they're going to be releasing new iMacs, hopefully with a redesign, but I seriously doubt that's happening. They're also going to be releasing the 16-inch MacBook Pro soon. So by the end of next year, they will have fully transitioned all the way from Intel chips to Apple Silicon chips, which are a lot faster. For everyday tasks, though, Mac Mini or the standard MacBook Pro or standard MacBook Air will be perfect for anyone considering buying a Mac. So it's really depending if you're a pro user, if you're a truly pro level user, if you should get one. Like right now, if you're thinking of getting a new desktop computer, maybe get the Mac Mini. If you're thinking of getting a laptop, I would actually recommend the MacBook Air a lot. But if you want that tiny bit more power and you want better battery life, get the MacBook Pro. It has 20 hours of battery life. Imagine that. That's because the chips use barely any energy. So if you put more power into the chips, it's going to be more powerful, as stated earlier. Like the MacBook Air doesn't even have a fan. That's because the M1 chip runs so cool. The more power you put into something, the more thermal energy it generates, and that's what causes something to heat up. When something uses such little energy that they barely even heat up, they do not need a fan. But the iMac Pro and other more expensive devices like the 16-inch MacBook Pro, that's going to be groundbreaking with say, okay, these chips right now, they use 15 watts from the computers. But imagine like a M1X chip that uses let's say 30 watts. That means you can basically you can turbo boost them. You can overclock the chips. And the M1 chip is based on the A14, which is a chip inside of iPhones. It's based on the iPhone chip. If Apple can somehow create much faster chips that are not based on iPhone chips or iPad chips, which I think they have already done, by the way, the new Macs are going to sell amazingly. And that's why I'm saying that you guys should buy Apple stocks right now. Invest in Apple stocks. They're going to skyrocket after people just realize how versatile their chips are, and once their faster chips come out. Next up, it's also going to be a lot cheaper, since when Apple has to buy chips from Intel, they have to pay Intel this price. And Intel needs to make money too. I'm not bashing on them. I'm not bashing on Apple. But when you cut out the middleman, everything just becomes a lot cheaper. And I know you guys are saying, "Oh yeah, Apple would not move the price savings to us. They would not do that." Well, they have already. They have done that. Look at the Mac Mini. This year's Mac Mini is $700. Do you know how expensive last year's are? It's $800. Apple increased the GPU by 6 times, increased the CPU by 4 times, increased the neural engine by 10 times the performance, and they somehow lowered the price by $100. Therefore, Apple Silicon's just a lot more cheap. It's a lot cheaper than Intel. This means that Apple will be able to put in more advanced tech for the same price, or with the same tech, lower the price. And yes, for any change, there will be people opposing it, and there will be drawbacks. So first of all, let's see some arguments. Some people are saying, yeah, but how do I know that this is actually going to be this fast in the long term? Maybe it's just overclocked insanely for the first few days. No. If it's overclocked insanely, why is it so silent? Why doesn't it barely turn on the fan? For the MacBook Pro and even for the MacBook Air, it doesn't even have a fan. How is it? Explain to me how it's running that fast. And if they're overclocking it, how come you're getting 20 hours of battery life? How is that even possible? It's not. So, first of all, that's just absurd. They're not overclocking it for the first few days for the benchmarks. That's not Apple. That's not an Apple thing to do. And the next argument is that, okay, but it's cool and all, but I need to use Adobe software, or I need to use other software that doesn't yet support Apple Silicon. So how come you're recommending me this computer? Well, there's this thing called Rosetta 2 that Apple developed that basically emulates normal x86 applications onto running on ARM processors. it works fantastically, as Apple has showed in WWDC. And also, according to Apple, because of the new CPU and GPU boosts, these chips are actually still faster at running these emulated software than last year's chips. I know it's a bit trivial to you guys that it's not running natively, it's being translated through this software and it's still faster. But that's just how it works. That's how fast Apple Silicon is, and you cannot deny that. Sure, there might be a few more glitches along the way, but still, you can run them perfectly, and in just a few more months, all of the software will be successfully ported or successfully transferred onto ARM process. So it's just a matter of time. Buy it now, invest now. You're gonna get your returns later. Next up, we'll be talking about who Apple Silicon is for. Well, first of all, it's for everyone. If you're a professional, then yeah, get the more expensive M1X or whatever it's going to be called. If you're just a normal person, get the MacBook Air or the Mac Mini. I'm actually really considering buying the Mac Mini. I don't know if I should get one or not. I should get one. I should. I don't know. I already have an iMac and a MacBook Pro, so I probably don't need one, but still, it just looks so nice and it's so powerful. Anyway, M1 chips are also incredibly RAM efficient, so 8 gigs of RAM goes a really long way. So yeah, it's for everyone. No matter if you're a surgeon, if you're a student, if you're a college student who barely has any time, and if you play video games. I know Macs aren't for games, but the GPU power, the raw strength, oh yes, it can handle games just fine. And however, you cannot run most games since you're not native to ARM. And also, you cannot boot camp anymore, which is a major downside. If you need Windows as a software, yeah, this is not for you. But to anyone else, this is the perfect computer, and it just got cheaper. So I finally convinced you in getting an Apple Silicon Mac. Now, which one should you actually get? There's the MacBook Air, which doesn't have a fan, but it has amazing power for a silent design, and it's really light, amazing battery life, and everything. There's the MacBook Pro, which is basically the same thing except with a fan, so even better performance, and because it's a bit thicker, you get 20 hours of battery life. Next up, maybe the iMac. Maybe you want to get an iMac with the newer M1X chip or whatever it's going to be called, which it's not out yet, by the way. I'm just speculating. But if you want to get that, should you get that, or should you just buy a Mac Mini that starts at $700 for basically everything you would need? You don't even need to upgrade it. I mean, yeah, you can upgrade the RAM, you can upgrade the storage, but just get an external SSD or something. The RAM, 8 gigs is perfectly fine on Apple Silicon. I know, 8 gigs seems like such little, seems like from 2010, but still, it still works. My Mac right now has 8 gigs of RAM, totally fine. Or maybe you want to get the iMac Pro since you're a professional. You want to spend that $5,000 onto a brand new device with the M1X S. I don't know what it's gonna be called, but like the M1 totally extreme, better than the M1 chip processor. Maybe you want to get that one because you're an absolute powerhouse. Or maybe even better, you want to get the Mac Pro, the new design Mac Pro with the Apple Silicon chips. 4 of them, to be exact. Okay, I'm just saying things now, but you get the point. What should you get? Should you get, is there even a competition? Well, for the average person, if you're just making videos, if you edit 4K or even 6K videos for YouTube, or if you do sound production, music production, you know which one I would recommend? This is going to be quite trivial. I would recommend the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro. Yeah, you heard me right. Editing 4K or even 6K videos, I would recommend a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro. Like, they work perfectly fine. They work so well with Apple Silicon that there's no reason to upgrade. Or if you're an absolute beast of a powerhouse, get an iMac. Don't get the iMac Pro for $5,000, or don't get the Mac Pro. They're not worth it. Like, if you need that power, an iMac gets you around fine. And if you just want a desktop computer and you don't need the raw power, or you don't need a screen, get the Mac Mini. It's that simple. I don't want to stretch it out like some other YouTubers on YouTube. who makes like 40-minute videos. I'm not bashing them. I'm saying, yeah, they're very informative, but sometimes we just want a quick and easy answer. And podcasts are usually where you get long answers, but I just want to stand out a bit, you know? Like for me personally, if I were to make an upgrade, which I will not right now since I already have everything that I need, but if I do have to make an upgrade right now and just pretend that every single Mac uses Apple Silicon now, I would probably go with a new iMac because my iMac is getting old. It's 2017. Okay, that's not old. I know. All right, spoiled person. But still, like, I would probably upgrade my iMac just because I would want better GPU and CPU power. But for the average person, I would just say if you need a laptop, get the MacBook Air. It costs $1,000 Canadian. No, sorry, 1,299 Canadian dollars or 1,000 USD. So it's not a bad price for such a powerful computer. And if you're an editor, a intensive editor, maybe get the MacBook Pro. There's no reason to spend extras. I hope this helped you. I still have a few more points if you want to keep listening, but I want to be a nice person. This is basically nearing the end of the podcast. There's still a few more points I want to talk about, but they're not going to be that important later on. So if you don't have time anymore, you can just leave the podcast. But if you're still here, awesome. I still have some very important things that maybe you want to stay around for. So which one do I recommend? Which product do I recommend? This is a big question, right? Which one do I recommend? Well, all of them, obviously. Apple Silicon is amazing. Which one do I recommend right now, though, without all of the Apple iMac or M1 chips out, or sorry, M series chips out? Right now, just comparing the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and Mac Mini, which one would I recommend out of these three? These three are very essential. These are the base products. Which one do I recommend? Well, first of all, I would have to say that the Mac Mini is best for value. It has a fan, so no throttling here, and it costs only $700. If you're a desktop person and you don't need... Sorry, my voice is getting really dry and I can't talk anymore. One moment, let me just take a sip of water. If you guys want to pick one up, if you want to get a desktop computer, the M1 Mac Mini is perfect. If you want something portable, I would say go with the MacBook Air. There's no reason to upgrade to the Pro if you just want something portable with amazing power. The only reason that you would go with the Pro would be for battery life. Yeah, I would recommend the Mac Mini first, the MacBook Air second, and the Mac Pro third. Obviously, everyone's different, so everyone's scenarios and reasons will be different. But for me, though, Mac Mini, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro 13-inch. All right, this has been it for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please, if you're listening on YouTube right now, please subscribe and leave a comment. And if you're listening on the podcast app, if you really liked it, then maybe leave a review and a rating, because that really helps with the podcast, and it tells Apple that it's well received. So anyway, this has been it for the video, as I said. So yeah, you can leave now, but thank you for listening. Take care, and don't forget to drink water.